Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I'm your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Franco Burrows. Franco, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing okay. As we were talking there offline, I'm having some wins. I'm having some losses at the moment, working through some health issues. But we're going to get into that. But yeah, overall, things are moving in the right direction. I've got lots to be grateful for.
Nice. Well, yeah. Awesome. Well, Franco is our Welsh Superman at the Powerful Man. So Franco's story, for the guys that haven't heard the podcast where we introduced Franco is one of the advisors. I had the benefit of being present at his Alpha Reset in the U.S. It was in New Hampshire, actually. And so Franco went through the activation method. He went through the Alpha Reset and then on to the Brotherhood. And he said, hey, look, I'm a business owner. I'm going to give up my business because I want to serve more men so they have the experience I have. And as all of our advisors are alumni, Franco is he's the king that's in there. And if you're in our Facebook group, guys, there's no doubt that you've been benefited by Franco's wisdom that he shares in there, which he does quite often. So Franco, so good. Oh, also the second best table tennis player in the Powerful Man as well. So Franco, thank you so much for joining us today.
As it stands, yeah. I mean, it's there was I can't remember where I read it now. There was a guy who was in either North Korea or Vietnam. He was a POW, and he was like a golf player. And because all he had to do all day was just think about playing golf, he never made any bad shots in his head. So that's been me during COVID. I haven't made any bad table tennis shots, so my preparation has been perfect to come back and beat you this time,
Nice. That was a fun game in Morocco that we had. So
it's good.
Lots of fun experiences. But Franco, let's talk about, I thought what's going on with you is really relevant right now. So kind of explain that to the guys of what's happening.
Yeah. So a long story short, in 2004, I was in Australia. I became ill with pneumonia. Which is strange to get in Australia. You think of getting pneumonia when you're freezing cold. It was like a really hot place. So, and then off the back of that, I developed what they called chronic fatigue syndrome, which is a vague illness, mysterious illness characterized by fatigue, pain, lost a lot of weight, blah, blah, blah. Similar really to what they call in this long COVID. I don't know if you'd refer to it that in the US, but it's a malaise that hangs around after a viral infection or whatever. But I went to the doctors, 6 months later, still they would just hang tight. Hopefully you'll get better. We can't really do anything for you. So I did what a lot of people do in that situation. I started doing my own research, and read voraciously on the internet, buying books. Literally, I would say I read about 500 books in the field of health and well-being and that kind of stuff. And not just in that, I mean, I had to look at everything that was affecting my energy. So is it relationships? Is it my past? Is it this? Is it that? Is it what I'm eating? Is it my lifestyle? Is it my environment? So I went down the rabbit hole in a nutshell. And I tried a lot of stuff that didn't work. I came across a lot of quacks.
I bet.
But I also found some really good stuff that worked, some universal principles of health. Stuff that we use in the Powerful Man today, which are awesome. And yet I got myself much improved. I would say, somewhere between 60 and 80% better. And then I thought, well, the last 20%, 30%, whatever it is going to be in my head. I declared myself better, and there we are. I'm back into my normal life. I'd been ill for a long time, so I threw myself into my business because I'd had a long time to think about what I wanted to do and the impact I wanted to make on the world. And so then fast forward to 2 years ago, I'd had some ups and downs like any business owner. I mean, I'm guessing you've had it yourself, Doug. I call it business owner burnout.
Sure.
You might be doing 60, 70, 80 hours a week. You think, well, it's natural that I'm going to be burning out. and it is. But 2 years ago, then I found that I just wasn't recovering from these burnouts, and I was getting sort of back down that old road of chronic fatigue again. So thankfully, having found the powerful man, again, we work on all aspects, but having gone through the brotherhood, and we still keep each other accountable on the team for all our routines and looking after ourselves and being in the best shape we can. And I had to admit that I just wasn't right. So I went back down the rabbit hole, but thankfully science has moved on. The treatment for these sorts of things has moved on, and I did a comprehensive blood analysis. Okay. So finally, I've got a diagnosis. All this time, it was my liver that wasn't picked up by, we have it in the UK, the National Health Service, which is in many ways is great, but they arrange for, from what I can tell anyway, they arrange for what's healthy, means that you're not dying yet. Your liver is functioning. You're not going to die today or tomorrow. But that doesn't mean you're anywhere near the optimum health range. And that's what this blood test uncovered. So anyway, got a great diagnosis, and I've got a plan. I'm working with people now to fix it, and I feel good about it, because this has cost me a lot. I mean, I haven't really been able to have a successful relationship. I'm able to work, but I'm not able to live as full life as I want, And you've seen me at times when I've been on form, and other times I'm not as on form, and I just have to manage that, So it just got me thinking. Anyway, there's a lot of parallels with my situation and men that we speak to every day, because when they realize that something isn't right with their marriage, what do? They start going on the internet, doing what I did, really. It's like, well, they look around them and they say, well, maybe they speak to friends and family, but a lot of the men tell us, well, nobody really around me has got the answers, or necessarily there's not a lot of good role models around me for great relationships. So what do? I start reading up on it.
Yep.
I find things like, the love languages, or maybe they try counseling, or, there's hundreds and hundreds of books on relationships out there, isn't there?
Yep.
And I was like that with health. I actually built up a good bank of knowledge about health. I mean, I already came from a sports background, so I had a sports science degree. And so I was helping a lot of people with their health issues, but I wasn't able to help myself because I hadn't really got to the heart of it.
Yeah.
And same in relationships, same with the men who come to us, business owners. Yeah, they might be like me in the sense that they might have the specific issue I had with my liver, but yeah, a lot of them are suffering with burnout. And yet Absolutely. There's also things in their marriage which are broken as well. And I don't know about you, but I think what's broken, what needs fixing in one marriage may not be the same thing in another marriage.
Yeah. And that's really interesting when you talk about it. It's also really, there's a big difference, right? We were joking around about table tennis. It's really, you could read a book on table tennis and go, okay, I think I get it. But until you actually play, it's a big, big difference. And having a coach who's really good, right, actually take you step by step and look at you and go, no, it's not, you're holding the paddle wrong, or the spin on the ball, or anticipate it this way. It's a world of difference. And I think I've been guilty of this, Franco, where I will digest content, right? Audiobooks and books, like water, and I'll get so much almost information overload, but it's the actual action of it and shortening the distance of time by having somebody guide you. And that's what you're doing now. You're having a professional guide you that's got proven results, and that's night and day.
Absolutely. That's a good example, actually. One of the practitioners I'm working with, as you know, we're all invested in getting our infrared saunas at the moment. Tim's got one. I've just bought one. You've bought one. So she said, don't use it. Don't use it for a month. We need to finish this process. Now, everything I'd read is saying that infrared saunas are going to help me. And she said, yeah, they will help you, but you need to do this first.
Yeah.
So that's a classic example. It's like, well, that one thing you're doing may be an important element of what you need to do, but there may be an order to it, like baking a cake, a recipe, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
And I remember reading things on the internet going, it's this supplement that I need. And then I would spend maybe, I don't know, £100 on supplements, and I'd be all excited. These supplements are going to come through the door. And then after a month or two, I'm like, it hasn't really helped. And ironically, the other practitioner I'm working with, he's recommended a lot of the supplements that I'd identified 15 years ago, but they're in a completely different combination, and there's other things that were missing. So I see it as like a jigsaw puzzle, you know? It's like, what are the missing pieces for you in your health, in your relationship? I think maybe some of the big ones in the relationships are connection, leadership. That's a big one, isn't it?
Yes.
Resentment, I think, is probably one of the other big ones.
Mm-hmm.
Any others?
Respect is a big one that we've seen a lot.
Respect, yeah.
Yeah, and it's how do you obtain these in a way that works for you? Kind of like what you're talking about, the combination of the supplements. You know, it's these subtleties that are important. It's not the 100 pounds just use your example, if that's okay. It's not the 100 pounds that's the issue, right? It's the 15 years, right? That's what you can't get back. You'll make 100 pounds, today or whatever. And that's not the issue. Even if it was 10,000 pounds, that you put a price on 15 years. And if we're going to keep using the analogy of marriage, and I know this from my marriage, when it's hard, you can't get that time back. You just can't. You can't get last week back of fighting and not having sex and not being connected, right? And so that's where, someone like yourself, you're really investing in yourself with time. And that's, everybody knows that's a dividend that pays you back over and over and over again. And you're compressing time. And that's the most precious resource we have.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's once you've got the big pieces in place, okay, I need to do this, I need to do this, this, and this. So say you've got 3 or 4 pieces in your jigsaw, and then it's really about the detail, isn't it? It's one thing having an idea. And we speak to men a lot on this, and they say, okay, right, I need to go away and do this. Great. But they think they're going away and working on something. But are they really working on it? Do they have a process? So it's like, right, I need to be more connected to my wife. So then they focus on the way they would connect with their wife, for example.
Yep.
But as we know, and don't get me wrong, I didn't always know this because I used to make the same mistake.
Sure.
But the connection can only really be measured by how connected she feels, as well as how connected I feel. Not whether I feel I'm doing it and I've ticked off that box. Oh yeah, no, I have appreciated it. I have done this. I have done that. So yeah, there's a whole process around it to be learned, and it's like when I got my results. Great guy, the guy I'm working with. He's one of the top men in the world, and he took me through it in detail. Okay, he took me through my results in detail. The second session, he's given me my plan. Okay, and then it's like, well, that's not going to get me there. What gets me there then is, number one, me taking action on the plan, and number two, me getting stuck and saying, shit, what do I do now? And then I get back to him and we get on the call again. And then he gives me another piece that was missing, or I didn't realize some detail, some nuance that didn't apply to me, or that does apply to me. So for me, it's the engagement in a process, and the process needs to be usually with someone guiding you, or at least supporting you through it. Someone who's been there with other people who've been in the opposite position, and they've taken you to where you want to be. Unless you can think of another situation where people would do that. I can't think of.
No,
but they would do it without that.
No, I can't think of it at all. And, it's, in your former career, you taught, basically top footballers, or we say soccer players, and they come to you, not because there's nothing in theory, they can go to YouTube and watch videos and drills and things like that.
Yeah.
But they're not going to progress. Maybe they'll progress more than they would have not watching those videos. But they came to your academy and they came to work with you because a couple of reasons. One is they're going to improve exponentially in a much faster pace. But two, you're also in the conversation, right? They're surrounded by other kids and guys who play in football, and they're going to get a lot better. And part of that's just being in the conversation, right? And with your healthcare practitioner, like you said, you can follow up with him, and there's nuances, but there's also things you just forget, right? We listen to podcasts, we go, oh, that's a great insight. And then, this alarm goes off somewhere, someone calls you, the doorbell rings, whatever. Yeah. And that insight floats away into the atmosphere or whatever, and you miss it and you're not able to take the action. Whereas with you have a coach, or, coming to practice, your coach is going to remind you of those little nuances that you forgot.
Yeah, it's the nuance for me. It's the nuances and the breadth and depth of knowledge and skill and experience you need to actually be successful. Most, for example, as you say, in my sport, soccer as you call it over there, football as we call it over here. Most kids now, if their parents are supportive, are going to realize you need to get a lot of touches on the ball, right? Mm-hmm. So we had one dad. He would turn up to sessions and matches and he would have a clicker. Is he getting enough touches on the ball? He's clicking them, and, and it was great because he was making sure that side of things were covered. Yeah. And that kid made it as pro, right? Which shows that if you do something with enough quality, enough repetition, because that's the other thing, isn't it? It's actually doing it, but then you got to do it again. When I think of
and do it right,
how many times it took me to learn some of the things we learn in the activation method in the brotherhood, it's probably one of the most powerful things was the repetition. And like you say, being reminded and doing it over and over, and then you might forget, and then you see someone else applying it and you think, shit, yeah, that's what I need to be doing. But also I've seen it a lot in football where a kid will have all the skill with the ball, but then he gets to 18 and then they're at such a level where, especially in the pro clubs where I was working, everybody's got skill. So that's not what's setting you apart. Then it's mindset or social skills, feeling that you can deal with big name players. You've been invited to train with the first team. And can you deal with these big personalities? Do you really believe deep down that you've got it, to take their place?
Yeah.
And there's so many kids. It pained me to see kids go through that whole process and then fall short because they just didn't have these pieces of the puzzle in place at all. And then I see that a lot with the men that we interact with. Not all of them, obviously, but some guys are really studious. They've read up on a lot of stuff, but it's like you've got a missing piece there. Or maybe you don't have any missing pieces, but you're not going through it in enough detail so that those pieces are really fitting together.
Well, yeah, and things change, right? So a common thing and a reason some guys, they go through the program. If they go in, guys come into the program for different reasons. Right now, the majority of guys are coming in to save their marriage, without having to go to therapy and do all that BS. And once they go through the program, they're like, oh my gosh, everything's amazing again. My wife admires me. We're having amazing sex. One guy, like the guy we joke about who's in the brotherhood, went from not having sex in a year to have, his wife basically taking advantage of him 5 times in a night, And I know,
and he's like, I'm not a piece of meat, leave me alone.
It's like, come on. It's like, how do I keep her off me? Which I'm sure a lot of guys are like, wait, I'd like to have that problem. But then, their wife is going to change. They're going to change. Business changes. They dive back into things that are their strengths. And a lot of guys stay in the program because they're able to be in the conversation, right? They're talking to other men who are business leaders who have children or don't. Some guys don't, but most guys have children. Most guys, are still married, and they're able to be in that conversation. So as new things come up, whether you call them shit tests or fitness tests or whatever, new things come up, these guys now are able to navigate those waters and go through it. And I think as men, we assume things are going to be static, right? Cool. Fix that problem, on to the next one, right? And that's not the way it works. It doesn't work that way in business. Could you imagine, guys, if listening to this, if you're a business owner, could you imagine just creating one advertisement for your business and saying, okay, I'm done. I created an advertisement in 2003. It's a flyer. I did it, and I'm done.
Put it up in the school hall.
You put it up in the school hall at a coffee shop, and I never have to advertise my business again. No, it's not the way it works. It's an ever-changing environment. Your relationship is even more so. Your marriage is even more so than your business. And it, like a good gardener, it needs constant weeding, constant tending. Weeds will pop up in your marriage, and you have to identify them, realize what a weed is versus a flower. And then you have to make sure that you not only pull up those weeds, but if you're a master gardener, Franco, and you know this, if you're a master gardener, you don't even let the weeds grow in the first place, right? That's how you know you've gotten it. But that does take knowledge, experience, and constant attention to the situation. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be really fun. And your challenge could be, trying to get enough energy like you are and this other guy. So if your wife pulls you in, to have sex 5 times a night, you're able to perform the rest of your duties the next day.
On demand, yeah.
Awesome, Frank. I mean, your story is, well, one is I'm so glad that you're feeling better and you're on the right path. I know the guys listening to this, especially the guys in the Facebook group that get to interact with you. You guys, if you're not in the Facebook group, make sure you get over there. There's amazing men, guys like Franco are in there too, just helping guys out. I mean, that's really all it is about delivering value and having great conversations that move things forward. It's an amazing group. It's over 2,000 guys in there right now, all business owners like yourselves.
There's a lot of support in there. There's a lot of men who are all in there for the right reasons. They want to get answers for themselves, but they want to help other men as well. So it's a great atmosphere. It's a great source of support for men.
It is. And we just released a training in there yesterday, which I think a lot of guys are going to get a lot of insight from. That really just explains what the real problem is in a lot of the relationships that we're seeing going through, especially coming out of COVID as things open up and getting in there. Well, guys, call to action here right away is, one is you got to get over to the Facebook group and at least let Franco know what you thought about his story and him taking the time to be here with us today. But 2, guys, if you find yourself in the situation that Franco, you're digesting 500 books, that's crazy. All kinds of content on a subject that you're trying to solve and it's not working for you. It's time to do something different, right? It's time to try something different. Now, you don't have to go through the activation method, but do something different. Just try something different to allow yourself the opportunity to get to the other side. Get to the other side, whether it's your health, it's your relationship, it's your business. Do something to shake things up because you can't get back that 15 years or that you can't get back that 2 months. And those of us that have little kids, we get to see it exponentially because kids change so fast. So guys, make sure you're taking action. Franco, thanks so much for being here with us, man. It's always a pleasure spending a little time with you, my friend. You always brighten up my day and my world. And I'm looking forward to seeing you, whether it be in Morocco again or someplace else in the world at our next event, and seeing what you got in store for me with the Swansea serve on the table tennis match.
Anywhere where there's a table tennis table. I've got my sweatbands ready. I've got my warm-up routine. I've got everything.
It's awesome. Awesome, guys. Well, guys, as always, if you get any insight, take massive action, right? That's the key here. We always want you to take action and make it a great week. We'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.